in your book, we are going to turn to page 114. Now, remember, we were reading about Martha Washington and her niece Polly, and they're on their way to help the soldiers at Valley Forge. And these soldiers are facing terrible hardships. They're in crowded huts. They have little to no food to eat. They have no shoes. And they have very thin blankets. And it is so, so cold. So we're going to pick right up paragraph 6 and continue with bringing hope to the valley. When the sleigh pulled into the camp, Polly felt a little scared at first. Then she quickly became horrified and angry. The men were like an army of skeletons wrapped in ragged clothes. Some had legs and feet black with frostbite. These men had been asked to free the American people from the British. The new Congress was ignoring their needs. And yet, at the sight of the sleigh, they were smiling, cheering, and even calling out, "God bless Lady Washington." Uncle George, too, came out to meet them. Polly smiled as her aunt gave him a quick hug. Then she jumped out of the sleigh herself as Aunt Martha started giving orders. "Unload the sleigh. Take the food and medicine to the central camp offices. Bring the cloth to me. Send me women who know how to sew and knit." Aunt Martha's voice was firm. The women in the camp, who looked cold and frightened, quickly came to her call. Polly, Martha, and women from the camp kept sewing and knitting almost all day. The winter light was dim, and it was cold even inside. Polly's hands were freezing, but in spite of her cracking fingers, she kept working. The women made new clothes, knit new socks, and patched the worn clothes the men already had. Martha wouldn't let them stop, and they wouldn't stop either. They couldn't while so many soldiers were still so cold. Over to 115. The cold was only part of the soldiers' misery. When Polly visited the hospitals, she saw men crying out in pain. As frozen limbs had to be removed. Others were sick, still others were dying. It was hard to look at what they were experiencing, but she had to face it. She followed her aunt's example and tried to help as much as possible with medicines, comfort, and kind words. All right, so let's go back to 114 and look at the cite evidence. A says, underline the sentences in paragraph 6 that show Polly's view about the camp. So you're going to do that. Paragraph 6, I'll give you a clue. There are 2 sentences you should find. Cite evidence B, circle the sentences on this page that have a first-person point of view. How are those sentences different from the narration of the rest of the story? So you're going to do that. And on this page, first-person point of view. And you're going to circle them. And I will tell you there are 3 of those sentences. Now, on page 115, I want you to do questions 1 2, and 3. For number 3, you only have to restate and answer. We will be talking more about this story tomorrow, and of course, we'll go over the story and discuss your answers on Thursday.